Have you ever felt a quiet sense of emptiness in a room full of comfort? Modern life offers endless safety, technology, and convenience for your daily needs. Yet, a persistent psychological ache often remains behind your pleasant surroundings. Society constantly demands that you feel happy, fulfilled, and satisfied. You try to satisfy this command by purchasing products and scrolling feeds, but the active chase for contentment makes it slip away faster. Average people assume that the main goal of life is achieving happiness. They believe that they can secure comfort through their career and relationships. However, this foundational belief of modern self-help is completely wrong. The deliberate pursuit of happiness actually causes you to feel more empty. In this analysis, we will examine a warning written in the camps. This warning reveals why the obsession with feeling good drives widespread depression. The following analysis will change how you view your daily search for peace. The psychiatrist who formulated this warning was a man named Viktor Frankl. During his medical career in Vienna, Frankl noticed a profound psychological paradox. He served as the head of the suicide prevention clinic in Vienna. In this role, he treated thousands of severely depressed and suicidal women. He discovered that those who attempted suicide lacked a sense of meaning. They had lost the belief that their life mattered to anyone else. Frankl worked to restore their connection to a specific responsibility or person. This hands-on clinical experience shaped his theory of the will to meaning. He saw that patients obsessed with happiness often broke down first during crises. Frankl realized that happiness is not a target you can aim at directly. In his famous memoir, Frankl articulated this paradox with clinical precision. He wrote that happiness cannot be pursued, but that it must instead ensue. A human being is not in pursuit of happiness in daily life. Instead, the human spirit is in search of a reason to become happy. Once the reason is found, however, the individual becomes happy automatically. To understand this, we must examine the historical foundations of modern psychology. Sigmund Freud proposed that humans are driven primarily by the pleasure principle. Freud argued that the deepest human motivation is the desire to satisfy urges. Alfred Adler introduced the will to power, focusing on status and control. But Frankl disagreed with both of his Viennese predecessors in his research. Frankl proposed that the deepest human drive is what he called the will to meaning. He argued that people do not seek pleasure or power as ultimate goals. Instead, humans seek a reason to exist that justifies their daily struggles. When a person cannot find this meaning, they experience psychological distress. Frankl termed this specific state of inner void the existential vacuum. He described the primary symptom of this vacuum in clinical terms as boredom. Without a known meaning, individuals become passive, waiting for external stimulation. In the modern era, this existential vacuum is more prevalent than ever. People have the means to live, but they lack meaning to live for. When the will to meaning is frustrated, people chase various temporary substitutes. They seek the will to pleasure through consumption and digital entertainment. They chase the will to power through financial wealth and social status. But these substitutes are merely temporary distractions from the underlying void. They can never satisfy the human hunger for a genuine personal purpose. This empty feeling often manifests during moments of forced, quiet isolation. Frankl identified a specific clinical phenomenon known as the Sunday neurosis. This is the depression that hits when the busy workweek suddenly stops. The workweek provides a structured framework that dictates your daily choices. This external routine distracts your mind from asking deeper questions about existence. But when the clock stops on the weekend, the distraction fades away. Suddenly, you are left alone with the silence of your own thoughts. The absence of external demands reveals the emptiness of your inner world. Without the distraction of labor, the inner void becomes impossible to ignore. In modern life, people scroll their phones to escape this quiet dread. If you realize this, you understand the central thesis of our work. Society tells you that feeling sad or anxious is a biological failure, but Frankl suggested that existential anxiety is not a mental illness. It is a sign that your mind is demanding a reason to exist. If you want to decode these hidden psychological patterns, consider subscribing. We analyze human behavior using peer-reviewed research, avoiding superficial self-help. We will now examine the modern scientific evidence proving Frankl was right. In 2011, researcher Iris Mauss conducted an important study. Her team at the University of California, Berkeley, published their findings in Emotion. They measured the psychological effects of placing a high value on happiness. The researchers designed experiments to test if striving for happiness improved well-being. The results of the Berkeley study were counterintuitive to modern beliefs. The data showed that participants who valued happiness most were less happy. Those who strongly desired to feel happy reported higher levels of disappointment. They also experienced lower life satisfaction and increased symptoms of clinical depression. The study concluded that the direct pursuit of happiness behaves like a trap. It creates an unrealistic emotional standard that guarantees constant frustration. The scientific mechanism behind this trap is called the hedonic treadmill. This concept was coined by Philip Brickman and Donald Campbell in 1971. They explained that humans adapt very quickly to positive life changes. When you achieve a goal, you experience a temporary spike in happiness. However, your brain quickly adjusts to this new level of comfort. The human brain is biologically wired to seek novelty rather than satisfaction. Neuroscientists refer to this process of adaptation as hedonic adaptation. Your nervous system reduces its response to positive stimuli over time. As a result, the pleasure of a new purchase fades very rapidly. You must constantly increase the intensity of your stimuli to feel good. This new state of comfort becomes your baseline within a few weeks. You must then chase a larger achievement to feel that satisfaction again. This constant, exhausting chase leads to a condition Frankl called hyperreflection. Hyperreflection is the act of overthinking and analyzing your own emotional state. When you ask yourself if you are happy, you notice minor discomforts. The act of monitoring your happiness destroys the spontaneity needed to feel it. By focusing on the target, you ensure that you will miss it. Frankl experienced the ultimate test of these ideas in 1942. The Nazi regime arrested Frankl and sent him to the Theresienstadt ghetto. Over 3 years, he was moved through 4 different concentration camps. These camps included the notorious death sites of Auschwitz and Dachau. In these environments, all external sources of happiness were completely destroyed. Prisoners were stripped of their clothes, their possessions, and their families. They faced starvation, freezing cold, typhus, and the constant threat of death. In these conditions of extreme suffering, Frankl observed a grim psychological triage. Prisoners who focused purely on physical survival and comfort often perished first. They would trade their scarce bread rations for cigarettes to smoke immediately. They smoked in a state of defeat because they had lost hope. Once a prisoner lost belief in a future purpose, they collapsed mentally. Their physical bodies would soon follow, succumbing to disease and exhaustion. Frankl survived his darkest days in Auschwitz through a technique of visualization. While digging in the frozen mud, he imagined a warm lecture hall. He visualized himself standing before an audience, speaking about camp psychology. This mental exercise allowed him to objectify his immediate, freezing misery. His suffering became a scientific topic rather than a hopeless trap. He also faced a critical choice when he contracted typhus in Dachau. He had the opportunity to escape the camp with a fellow doctor. However, he chose to stay and care for his dying patients. This choice gave his own suffering a profound, undeniable sense of purpose. But Frankl noticed another group of prisoners who maintained their inner strength. These individuals did not focus on happiness, which was impossible to achieve. Instead, they focused on a meaning that lay outside of themselves. One prisoner survived by holding on to the mental image of his wife. Another survived by focusing on his duty to finish a scientific manuscript. Frankl realized that survival was not determined by physical strength or youth. It was determined by the possession of a concrete future meaning. He observed that the human mind has a capacity called tragic optimism. Tragic optimism is the ability to maintain hope in the face of pain. It allows you to find meaning in suffering and a reason to live. In the camp, Frankl lived by a quote from philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche. Nietzsche wrote that he who has a why to live can bear any how. Frankl saw this truth play out in the barracks every single day. Those with a task waiting for them found strength to endure cold. Their future meaning acted as an anchor, keeping them steady in the storm. During his imprisonment, Frankl made a discovery that defined his life work. He realized that even in chains, a human being possesses a fundamental power. He wrote that everything can be taken from a man but one thing. That thing is the last of the human freedoms in any circumstances. It is the freedom to choose your attitude and your own way. This inner freedom allows a person to rise above their immediate environment. Frankl demonstrated that even unavoidable suffering can be turned into an achievement. He argued that if there is a meaning in life, there is meaning in suffering. Suffering is an ineradicable part of life, just like fate and death. Without suffering and death, human life cannot be complete or whole. The way you accept unavoidable suffering adds a deeper meaning to life. After the liberation of the camps, Frankl returned to his home in Vienna. He discovered that his wife, parents, and brother had all been murdered. He was left entirely alone in a destroyed and grieving city. Yet, instead of succumbing to despair, he threw himself into his work. He reconstructed his lost manuscript and founded the school of logotherapy. He proved his theories by finding meaning in his intense personal grief. He used his pain to help thousands of patients find their purpose. The lesson Frankl brought back from the camps challenges modern convenience culture. Modern society treats suffering as an anomaly that must be quickly medicated. People are told that the purpose of life is to be comfortable, but Frankl warned that this inward focus is a psychological dead end. True fulfillment is never found by looking inside your own mind. Frankl argued that meaning is not something you invent inside yourself. Instead, meaning is something you discover in the external world. You find meaning by creating a work or performing a deed. You also find it by experiencing goodness, truth, beauty, or love. Finally, you find it through your attitude toward unavoidable, painful suffering. These three pathways connect your inner mind to the external reality. This point leads directly to Frankl's foundational concept of self-transcendence. He argued that the true meaning of life is discovered in the world. It is not found within man or his own closed psyche. The more you forget yourself, the more human you actually become. You forget yourself by serving a cause or loving another person. Self-actualization cannot be attained if it is made an end in itself. It is only achieved as a side effect of your self-transcendence. If you spend your life chasing happiness, you are chasing a shadow. Happiness is not a destination you can reach through sheer willpower. It is the automatic byproduct of dedicating your life to something larger. It comes when you stop asking what you want from life. It comes when you ask what life is asking from you. At the beginning, we examined the quiet emptiness that haunts modern comfort. We showed how the search for happiness turns into frustration and disappointment. Frankl's warning is that emptiness cannot be cured by seeking more pleasure. It can only be cured by accepting the responsibility to find meaning. The next time you feel empty, do not run to modern distractions. Do not ask yourself why you are not feeling happy today. Instead, ask what task is waiting for your unique attention. Ask what person needs your help or what challenge requires courage. Your happiness will not arrive because you searched for it directly. It will arrive because you forgot about it and lived for meaning.